It's time now for Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Jen Cohen as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives in Yavapai County. And now, here's today's Countywide.
Hello, welcome to Countywide. I'm your host, Jen Cohen. Today, we are speaking with Lisa Schenbly Heidinger. She is an author of 10 books, 10, the 10th of which is called The Journal of Sedona Schnebly. Beautiful book, written in a very interesting way, which we'll get to. You can check it out, sedonaschnebly.com. Lots of information there for you. You can also go to arizonawriter.com. Lisa Schenbly Heidinger, thank you for being here today.
It is a delight. Thank you.
Such a pleasure to meet you, to meet someone so close to such an amazing
What would
part
it be
of
like?
Arizona's history.
3 degrees of separation or something I suppose,
like
if
that.
she's my great-grandma. Yeah, I don't really know.
Your great-grandma.
Well, and you are kicking off the world premiere. I mean, this is the first time anybody has done anything about this book. This is the very first time.
Oh my gosh, I am extra honored. How wonderful. And it's no little book either.
No.
It's almost 2 inches thick.
It's 107,000 words.
Wow.
I was shocked. But my husband said, I don't think I've spoken 107,000 words in my entire life.
So give us a description of this book. It's different than most books because of how it's written.
Yes, it is a journal. And if you are a new writer and you look about how to be a writer, they say never do anything in first person. You just can't do that. But I have been a journaler my whole life, and I found out fairly recently, within the past couple of years, that she, as I, reserved an hour after lunch every day of quiet time to write.
Wow.
And if I had done it as a third person, so then said, did you play Barbies as a kid? And you would say, and then Ken and Barbie went to and then Ken and Barbie, and I thought it would feel like that. It would feel like, and then Sedona and Tees. So the only way to tell it was her voice. And I feel like, without getting into the how or why, because I have no idea, it's her voice. It's her voice. It's not mine. And there was a great thing Joan of Arc one time when she was being interrogated somebody said, how do you know God talks to you? How do you know it's not just your imagination? And she said, that's how God talks to me. So I'm deciding for my own purposes that that's how Sedona talked to me. I would sit down, I had decades of research, literally, and I would think, okay, what am I going to write today? When they went to Montezuma Castle. And I would just start to journal. And it would just flow, and I would finish it, and I would think, "Wow, okay," but it just worked. That's all. It just worked.
That's amazing and an incredible feat. Yes, writing it in the first person and in the form of a journal. It's not something anybody can do.
Well, my brother has a saying, it's a good thing we don't know what we're getting into when we start.
Oh, yeah.
And there were a couple times I would think that, truthfully, because some of it was difficult. Writing about when Pearl died when she was 5 was extremely difficult. And I will confess to you and all your listeners and viewers that every time I read it, I still cry.
Yeah, me too.
But it was the right way.
Yeah, life was different back then, obviously. I mean, what decade are we talking about?
Yeah, well, 1901 is when they came out, and she died in 1950. So it was different from, extremely, especially in Arizona.
Yes.
When she was still in Missouri, they had gas lamps. She one time later, and there's a photo in the book, took a ride in a Model T.
All right.
But out here, dirt roads, no doctors, no stores, no lights, no nothing. And you know how dark it gets in the Verde Valley, Cottonwood area. At night, there's no horizon at night here. It's just so dark.
Yeah.
So.
One of the things we love about it.
Yes,
for sure.
absolutely.
How long did it take you to write such an amazingly huge book?
I had done about 30,000 words over about 25 years. I started in earnest about a year and a half ago.
Wow.
And it just banged out. I think I was done with the actual writing of that other 77,000 words in about 6 months.
Wow.
It just couldn't come quickly enough. And ever since then, it's been batting cleanup, editing, having proofreaders go through it, things like that. That's the devil is always in the details.
Absolutely, especially in the editing. So now it's released. It's out there. We can get a hold of it?
Yes. It's almost released. We're still doing it. No, I guess you could actually probably get on Amazon now. We're going to have a kickoff. There's going to be 2 library events, September 30th, October 1st, at the Church of the Nazarene in Village of Oak Creek on the 30th, and at the Sedona Library on the 1st.
All right.
And so those are kind of the official launches. And yes, I believe it's probably on Amazon, although I haven't checked today. I'm still recording the audiobook because I used to do broadcasting, and I thought, I don't want somebody else's voice here. I hear it how I think it should be read, so I'm still finishing the audiobook.
Yeah, much easier for you than anybody else.
Yeah.
Your interpretation is going to be spot on.
We hope. It's mine, so yeah, that's all it has to be, is mine.
How many stories do you think are in there? How many different excerpts and inserts?
In terms of sheer facts that I know are true that I worked in, it's well into the hundreds. From very big things like being written out of her parents' will because TC was Presbyterian in a very small, very Methodist town. I mean, that's big.
Right.
Small things like the fact that she always embroidered white on white or cream on cream. Not a huge thing, but every little one of those I feel like helps build a more fully fleshed picture of who the woman was.
Absolutely.
I was just reading to your delightful receptionist a line where when they come back to Sedona and getting into the 50s, there are a lot of movies being made there, people are interested, and she says, because she was famously shy, TC was everybody's friend, she was very reserved, and she said, sometimes when people meet me, they look a little disappointed. They expect this sandstone sprite, and instead they get a woman who's probably scented faintly of potatoes or jam or something equally mundane.
Oh.
And she did not want to be anybody's sandstone sprite. She was a very shy person, very private person. And I confess to a moment of, should I really be publishing her stomach when she was so private? But then I think it wasn't that she was snooty or snobbish. She just didn't feel comfortable putting things out to a larger audience. So she was grateful that, she called him Carl. They were Carl and Dona to one another. Oh. But she was grateful that Carl was kind of the bridge to the wider world.
Yes, that does make sense. Usually pairs like that work
really well. That's true too, yes.
And you know, that person who's out there and everything needs that very grounded person. You know, my take on Sedona, she's very grounded.
That's a very good word. Yeah. Yeah, she wasn't confused about who she was or what mattered. That's very true.
Yeah, she was a lot of things. Now, they moved to Sedona because, for religious reasons, is that correct?
He was Presbyterian, and the town of Gorin didn't like him. Yeah, and his brother was out here traveling, teaching, and said, "You got to see Oak Creek." So they came because then they could farm, and it was pretty. And
well, it still is.
It still is.
My gosh. And they started life in Arizona in Oak Creek Canyon. Is
correct.
That correct?
1901 at what is now Los Obregados and Talakipaki, back to Brewer Road. They bought 80 acres that had belonged to Frank Owenby, who built the Owenby Ditch, which is still running through Los Obregados.
Right. Oh, is that what? There you go. See, you learn something every day new on Countywide. Well, I'm excited to hear about some of your favorite stories. When we come back from the break, I would love it if you would say, oh, you know, one of the things that surprised me most about that you found out in your research. I would love to hear that. But we're going to take a short break. Check out SedonaSchnebly.com for more info. Also, ArizonaWriter.com. We are talking with Lisa Schenbly Heidinger about her new book, the number 10, the 10th book released by this amazing woman, the Journal of Sedona Schnebly. All her books about Arizona, really great. Look it up. We'll be right back, so don't go away.
So you're looking online now? Yeah, great condition. I hate to see her go, but I really just need the cash. Well, the price is still just $1,000, but you have to send the money now, right now. Well, that's why the price is so low. Like I said, I need cash fast. I can't wait on a check or money order. You have to send cash now.
The moment they ask for immediate cash is the moment you know something's wrong. Think before you send money. Learn more at scamawareness.org.
Orkin has pest control down to a science.
When your business chooses Orkin's Precision Protection Program, you get a tailored pest control program for your specific industry and environment.
Your business can benefit from over a century of experience, training, and scientific knowledge that define the Orkin man.
Maximum protection, minimum exposure, backed by one of the industry's most comprehensive guarantees.
Choose your locally owned and operated Northern Arizona Orkin and get more than an exterminator. Get an expert.
And welcome back to Countywide. I'm Jen Cohen. We're here with Lisa Schenbly Heidinger, the author of 10 books. Her most recent, The Journal of Sedona Schnebly. Amazing book. We've been talking about that. Lisa, thank you so much. Now, before we took a break, we were talking about, there was a few things that you learned that were so interesting and fascinating.
Well, that surprised me so much. I thought I knew most of it. One was that TC, when he was still in Maryland in the family plantation, was largely reared by a freed slave. They were Union when the conflict started. The family freed the slaves, and it was an elderly gentleman who raised him. I said a prayer, and the name I got was Boyle, B-O-Y-L-E. I had checked every census, couldn't find anything. Another thing I loved was Billy Wallace, who had been a Rough Rider with Bucky O'Neill in the Arizona Rough Riders in the Spanish-American War, who was a neighbor of theirs. My dad remembers Uncle Billy, who had a metal plate in his head.
Oh,
and so Billy Wallace is a character early on who recurs throughout the pages of the book.
The man with the metal plate.
Yes, it's a whole other book, isn't it? The man with a metal plate.
I know.
Sounds like a man
there's
carrying
a lot
little tin
in
plate.
this book. There's a lot in this book. And you've been so wonderful as to bring some pictures of the family with you today.
Yes, we have those. Tad and Pearl, Ellsworth and Pearl. Ellsworth is my great-grandpa, and Pearl was his little baby sister.
Yes.
This is before they moved out. She's probably 1 and he's probably 3. She was the one then later killed when she fell off her pony, which is why.
At 5.
At 5, and grandfather would never let any of his children or grandchildren ride.
Right after that, I understand. It's a beautiful picture of two small children in their dresses.
And that's their first house. That's where they built in 1902, and it was the only house big enough to house guests, which is how it became kind of the first hotel / bed and breakfast / whatever.
Right.
So you can see the O&B ditch curving there toward the house.
You can imagine the space where Tlaquepaque is.
Exactly.
Almost Snoopy Rock sort of over to the left there. Beautiful little home there in the canyon.
Yeah, and a huge basement as big as that house itself. This is her other house in Gorin, Missouri, and her family. We're looking at her mom and dad and I think 8 of the 9 kids who lived to adulthood. And she is second from the left. She had distinctive eyes, and you can even see as a child they were kind of shadowed.
Stand out,
very large eyes.
Strong brow.
Somebody called her as a child little bug-eyed Donnie Miller, and she just hated that.
Oh my gosh. Well, they all look like they're going to the funeral in all their black
outfits. I think that was just how it was back in those days. I think
that's
they
how
usually
it was.
looked pretty sober. It was probably easier to keep clean.
That's true.
The sister she was next to in the previous picture, Lily, was both her best friend and her biggest problem, because Lily was quite lovely and very comfortable in her own skin, and that was hard for Sedona. Lily married Loring, who was the catch in Gorin, who ended up at Leavenworth for embezzling.
All right.
Which is kind of rich, lest we think that, the pretty one always wins. Not always.
Not quite. She is quite pretty, though.
She is, though. And then TC, who she called Carl, they were Donna and Carl to each other, right there in the center of your screen, is a graduate of Cahokia College, which is near Gorin, Missouri.
Very handsome fellow.
Yeah, he
looks like a movie
he?
star. Looks a bit like Cary Grant in that photo.
Well, I like that idea. Yeah. He. You can see who he's going to be when he gets old, but he was. He was good looking. That was before he built Schnebly Hardware in Gorin, Missouri, which is where they met when he was still in college. And then you can hardly see her boots, which makes it a little tougher, although on the radio nobody can see anything. But she has black boots under knickers in this picture, and she is well into her 50s at this point. So she was a very independent thinker. She's smack dab in the center in a bright white shirt, and then the gray knickers that get tucked into the boots. And that's with the Wallace, as a matter of fact. Ethel Wallace is next to her in a white hat. So they did stay friends. The families
Very
stayed close.
nice.
As a matter of fact, her daughter, Margaret, married Stanton Wallace, Uncle
wow.
Billy's son.
How about that?
So I guess when there's 5 families in the area.
Yeah, you've only got so many to choose from.
That's right. She and Carl by the Wayside Chapel, or actually before service at the Wayside Chapel. We believe this was on their 50th wedding anniversary. He looks downright snappy.
He does, and she's got a big smile on her
She
face.
does,
On
and
their
her
50th
elegant
anniversary.
long coat and his
Yes.
little fedora there. Yeah,
What a nice
they
couple.
did see their 50th wedding anniversary.
Excellent.
They married on her 20th birthday,
Ah,
February 24th, 1897. She was 20 years old. He was 8 years older, and he still outlived her by 3 or 4 years.
how about that?
But they were a couple. You know how once in a while somebody really is bigger together than they are as themselves.
Yes,
They were one of those.
That's a rare thing, but it's been
Yeah.
a rare thing forever.
True.
It's not a new thing that wow nobody stays together. It's a rare thing to really
Absolutely.
find as you say, a pair that are stronger together than
Yeah.
apart. And TC and Sedona were very, very much there.
They were.
So the book spans what years of her life?
Well, it starts when she comes out. The opening line is, "The first time I saw the place that now bears my name, all I wanted to do was be somewhere else."
Oh my.
And goes on to say it wasn't that there was anything wrong with it, but I'd spent 3 days on the train with the kids, and I was sore and dirty and tired and blah, blah, blah. And so then we go through those early building years in Sedona, and she does meet Bucky O'Neill's widow by then, Pauline O'Neill. Learned a lot about that. And then after Pearl dies, they go back to Gorin, and then her sister, because she's so despondent, brings over her old journals that start when she was 13. So that would have been 877, that would have been 1890. So she was 13, and it goes till she dies at, 73, I believe?
Wow.
1950.
She lived a long life
she lived
for back then.
Especially for back then, huh? Yeah.
Now, tell me, why is Sedona named after Sedona Schnebly?
Because the Postmaster General wouldn't take TC's first suggestion, which was Schnebly Station. It was too long. With Arizona Territory, and so they sent it back. I've actually seen this in the archives at NAU. Too long. So then his brother, who had invited them out here in the first place, said, "Why not name it after Dona?" So Sedona it became. And I read a column once by a guy named Tom Beale who said they should have named it Schnebly. And even I, who love the name, was thinking, "Are you nuts?" But I went on to read, nobody would have lived there. They want Aspen, Cloudcroft,
Yes.
Angel Fire, Sedona.
right.
He said it would be as empty as Ash Fork if they had named it Schnebly.
Yeah,
And I don't know if that's true or not, but obviously you can't put that shit back in the bottle, so.
Right. Hey, I'm thrilled it's named Sedona.
It's a great name, and
it
I'm
is a
sure
great
that
name.
she was a little embarrassed and also very proud.
Oh, inwardly in her knickers, she was very proud. Well, we've got some more to talk about. Don't go away. I want to talk about, again, your what do we call it, reveal for a book, the 30th and the 1st.
Okay, absolutely.
We're going to
Yes.
talk about that. Check out SedonaSchnebly.com and ArizonaWriter.com. We'll be right back after a short break.
This is Bruce Morrow, Transportation Manager for Cottonwood Area Transit. Remember, we cover the entire Verde Valley in Sedona. Cottonwood Area Transit has you covered wherever you want to ride in the Verde Valley, all day, every day. Take Cottonwood Area Transit through Clarkdale, Verde Village, and from 26 locations in Cottonwood. With Verde Links, it's a quick and easy trip to Sedona every day. Don't forget our connectors to Camp Verde. Visit cottonwoodaz.gov for Cottonwood Area Transit and take a seat. Let's go ride.
The Q102.9 plays all the hits.
Yo, what's going on? This is Drizzy Drake.
Ariana Grande.
Maroon 5.
This is Rihanna.
I'm Shawn Mendes.
Hey, it's Bruno Mars.
Ed Sheeran.
What's up, guys? It's Justin Bieber. You're listening to The Weeknd.
Start your day with Brian James in the morning. You'll get at least 10 songs in a row during your ride home with Julie Page.
Zach Sang Show.
Catch the Zach Sang Show weeknights 7 to midnight. And Kelly Fox weekends on your home for hit music. The Q102.9 and 104.9 in Prescott and Cottonwood.
Hello, Mr. Hopkins. This is Sue from Disaster Relief. We're calling neighbors statewide to get help for storm victims. Children, lost parents, homes. You can. Oh, thank you. But could you send the money now? The need is urgent. We so appreciate you. It means so much, but it has to be now. It has to be cash. No credit cards, checks, just cash.
The moment they ask for immediate cash is the moment you know something's wrong. Think before you send money. Learn more at scamawareness.org.
Schools have a big problem.
Every year, millions of kids come to class with nothing. So teachers end up spending thousands of dollars of their own money just to make sure kids have what they need to learn. I'm the school supply fairy. My assistant and I do what we can. But we could really use your help.
And welcome back to Countywide. I'm Jen Cohen. We've been speaking with Lisa Schenbly Heidinger, author of 10 books, the latest of which is the Journal of Sedona Schnebly. Check out ArizonaWriter.com and SedonaSchnebly.com for lots of information on that. What is the best thing about having this published? I mean, it took a while. It's here now.
You know, it's like having the baby. Up until you actually give birth, the baby is sort of theoretical even to you. And once it's born and it's real and you hold it in your hands and you go, oh my gosh, this is it. It's here. I've been thinking about it for so long and it's here.
Wonderful.
So it's a great relief.
Yes.
I don't have to think, I hope I do that someday anymore. It's done.
And speaking of babies, I love that your daughter is named Sedona.
Yes, and my son is Lisa Schenbly Heidinger, and he now lives in Flag, and he says every time he goes over Schnebly Hill Road, he opens the windows and yells, Schnebly Hill Road. So I love that there's somebody living in northern Arizona who appreciates it. And of course, she loves the town. When she was little, she saw the sign and said, look, Mama, there's my town called me.
Oh, adorable. Now you've got 2 events coming up, signing, and you'll be reading excerpts. The first one is happening September 30th at the Church of the Nazarene in Cottonwood. Starts at 9
Village of Oak Creek, right?
The Village of Oak Creek. The Church of the Nazarene is in the Village of Oak Creek.
Yes.
Okay.
I probably misspoke.
VOC. There we go.
Correct.
Excellent. And the second one is October 1st at the Sedona Public Library. What time does that one start? At 2 p.m.
Yes. Yeah, I love chance where you get to actually read little bits and, you know.
Yeah. That's great. And of course, any chance you get to get your book signed.
Yeah.
You know, it makes such a big difference.
Somebody told me they're worth 10 times more when they're autographed. And I thought, okay, say more about that. Does that mean 100 years from now they're worth 10 times more? Does that mean if you walk out and try to sell it, they're worth 10 times more?
Yes.
Maybe it's just as worth 10 times more to the owner.
Yes and yes.
I don't know.
As a collector of old books, yes and yes.
Okay, good.
What's next for you?
Taking this baby on tour is next for me, and that's really fun because then you're sharing it with people. If I talk to a Rotary Club, they may or may not be interested in what I have to say, but if I'm asked to speak about a book, somebody comes because they're interested in it. And so getting to share, isn't this cool? Not this makes me cool, but just isn't this cool that this woman lived here and these are the stories about her with people who are interested in Arizona history or women before there were women. She was a WTCU member and a women's rights advocate too.
Of course she was.
You're not surprised.
No, I'm not surprised.
You knew she had grit.
Absolutely. That quote of well-behaved women rarely make history.
Yes. Oh, I didn't thought about that. If she had behaved well, she wouldn't have married TC.
Exactly.
Right.
She wouldn't have, and wore knickers.
And wore
at
knickers.
age 50.
That's right.
And I love that the book has a bit of a romance novel element in it. There's a couple of Fabio moments in there.
And even though I've said somewhere, I promise never to use the word corset and Creekside in the same sentence, we do know a little bit about her relationships and her loves and what she likes and what she doesn't, and well into old age.
Yes.
She was not a flower who faded early.
No, she was very vivacious, very intelligent, very strong. I happen to love the smell of jam and potatoes. She and I would have gotten along really well.
I think she would have just loved you. I truly do.
Lisa, it's been such a blessing to have you on the show. Thank you for being here and premiering your book on Countywide.
Thank you so much for launching
Really appreciate it. Check her out. 2 events, September 30th at the Church of the Nazarene in VOC, and also October 1st at the Sedona Public Library, 2 p.m. Check out SedonaSchnebly.com and ArizonaWriter.com. This has been Countywide. We've been speaking with Lisa Schenbly Heidinger, the author of the Journal of Sedona Schnebly. Thank you so much for being with us. We'll see you next time.